What's up, people? It is your guy, Tazzdaangel, with more card talk, good conversation you can ride to. And today's topic will be my thoughts on pro-life and pro-choice. And of course, like always, I always debate on what my topic is going to be. And a friend of mine and I just had an hour-long debate about this, so figure this would be it, because it was this and a couple other things. Like always, I always try to have at least 2 to 3 things to talk about, because I don't want to get so focused on one thing, because if that changes, or if I don't have enough input on it, I need something else. You know what I mean? But this topic has been on my. I'm cutting the label off my bottled water. No advertisements here. Anybody who's been listening to this is well aware of that. But I'm drinking that, and I'm eating some hazelnut spread sandwiches. Not gonna say the brand name, because we don't do those advertisements here, baby. Anyway, so to dive right into it, if we are going to label our opinions and our thoughts as pro-life and pro-choice, I am unequivocally pro-life. Now, many people have used the argument of, what if someone's raped or taken advantage of, and they end up getting pregnant from that mishap or that occasion situation. And my answer was still, I think that the baby should be born, because it was not that life's choice of how it was created. It didn't choose to be created that way. And it also didn't choose to be snuffed out because of that. I'm a firm believer in placing blame where it's due. Now, the guy who took advantage of the woman, guy and or guys, should be held accountable to the full extent of the law. I don't think that we should take a life because of that, though. And I've seen many memes and many people say that due to a lot the most recent ruling, it was a board of all men that made the decision of taking abortion, I think, past 6 weeks away, making it illegal or something like that. And the main focus that I've been seeing is people saying men shouldn't be making rules about women's bodies. In which my response to that is, that's not really the problem. I don't think, because I believe that if there was a board full of women, that it would still been a problem. The problem is the ruling, not the people who came up on it. So that's more of a distraction. That's a distraction. The problem and the issue with people is the ruling. They don't like that the abortions were taken off the table after a certain amount of time. The problem with that is, again, it's a distraction. That's not what you really care about. You don't really care that men came up with that. I'm going to change that because I'm not going to say what you and what you weren't, because then it seems like, it makes it seem like I know you better than you. So I don't believe that the actual issue was the ruling. Was the people, the men that came up with the decision. I believe that the actual issue was the decision with most people. And I don't have any way to prove that. I don't have any facts to back that up. That's just my belief. There are multiple reasons why I'm pro-choice. I'm sorry, pro-life. I prefer to allow the child to have a chance. Just have a chance, man. Because one of the reasons is, like I said, that child didn't choose how it was conceived, that life didn't choose how it became created. So why should we punish it because of that? I don't think we should. And I think death is a pretty big punishment. It's the last punishment that life will ever get. So my homie and I, when we were talking, I was saying that I don't think that because someone was raped or taken advantage of makes it okay to murder. And he said that he thinks that murder should be a little more fluid than that. It should be more of a, there are sometimes extenuating circumstances that could change things. And I disagreed wholeheartedly, because if we make exceptions for these anecdotal situations, not that they aren't important, just that they're anecdotal, they're hit and miss, very few. It is an astonishingly low amount of abortions because of rape. If I'm not mistaken, it is less than 5%. If I'm not mistaken, and I could be, but if I'm not mistaken, abortions done because of the woman being raped and impregnated during that situation, if I'm not mistaken, is less than 5%. The majority of abortions are out of convenience. Now, you may not agree with me, and that's okay, because what I'm saying, I'm not trying to say it as if it's factual. I'm only saying it as this is what I think. Now, something that is convenient means you are doing it to make your life or your quality of life better, less complicated. And when I say most abortions, over 80%, if I'm not mistaken, are done out of convenience. I mean, when the woman simply says, I'm not ready to be a mom. I don't have time for a child because of my job or because of my goals that I'm trying to accomplish. When they say things like, I'm not ready to be a mom, that means that child is an inconvenience to you. And at that point, I don't think that that's justifiable or that's enough reason to end a life. Now, people go back and forth on what is a life really. Once that part in your body, once that has its own heartbeat, it has its own DNA code, which means it has the coding of its eye color, how tall it's going to become. its hair color, its skin color, all of that is already done once the heartbeat is established. That's a life. And if we don't make these things cut and dry, then we can debate back and forth all day, every day. We have to make these things black and white, cut and dry, just as simple as possible, to have the least amount of actual backlash. Now, you can disagree, but you won't really be able to debate because they're facts. If we move on facts, you can disagree with the facts, but you can't debate them because you can't go against the truth with anything else other than opinion or false. So you can disagree with it, but you can't really debate it because at the end of the day, it's still the truth. You can disagree with someone by saying 1 + 1 is 2. I know some people say 1 + 1 is 3 because they say if you take one man and one woman, you can make a third life. So 1 + 1 is actually 3. Yeah, sure. What if you got one woman and a woman? What if you got one man plus another man? What if you have one sterile man plus a woman? In all these cases, you still get 2. So if you speak factually and take yourself out of the situation, it makes it easier to come to a rational decision. If you make it anecdotal and you make it case by case, spot by spot, hit and miss. What about this extreme circumstance? What about this rare occurrence? I'll put it to you like this. Medicines in their commercials, they will tell you the most common side effects. And then they'll say, in certain rare cases, this has even been found to happen. But just because of those rare occasions, those 1 in a million or whatever number you want to add to behind that 1, those cases aren't enough to change or stop them from making that medicine and distributing it. Because there's always going to be exceptions. You don't change the rule because of an exception. Because if you do, then you'll never have a rule. There are always going to be exceptions. You don't change the rule for an exception. So another reason why I disagree, or how should I say this? Another thing that I want to say about it, I put it like that, is you don't have to raise the child. Because one thing that my friend was saying, he was saying that, don't you think that could weigh heavily on the woman's mind, having to see that child and, knowing how that child was created? And I told him, after that child comes out of your body, you never have to see it again if you can't deal with it, because I get it. That was a traumatic experience. And if you can't deal with the embodiment or the result from that situation, then give it to someone who can, who doesn't have that memory or that experience with it, and who just wants to love it. Because there are people all around the world who aren't able to have children on their own, aren't able to make children on their own, but they still want children. And adoption lists are so far backed up. People are waiting months and months and months just to get an interview to see if they might be able to get a child. Yet thousands and thousands of them are being extinguished every year. See, if you're able to take yourself out of the situation, then you're able to see the big picture. And the big picture is, that's a life. Once a heartbeat is established, that is a living creature. And one other thing that people, and women especially, but people in general, tend to say is, It's her body. She should choose what happens to her body. I disagree. Because at that point, that's no longer just your body. There are two heartbeats in one body. And I don't think one heartbeat is more important than the other. I just don't think that. I can't tell you what to think. I can't tell you what to feel or what to believe. I can only say what I believe and what I think. I don't think one heartbeat is more important than the other. Which is why I don't think that abortion is okay. Because most of the time, statistically, not just me thinking, most of the time abortions are done after there's a heartbeat established. That's murder. Murder is simply, and we're only talking about human life. Well, I'm only talking about human life because, I know people who make the argument of, if you're so not okay with murder, why do you eat meat? Why do you eat burgers? And I'm talking about human life. Nothing more, nothing less. That's my topic. That's my discussion. Anything outside of that, I'm not interested in. When it comes to human life, if someone does something that ends that life, that's murder. Now they call it manslaughter if it was a mistake, as far as legality, But just cut and dry definition, not legal definitions, just like everyday life definitions. If you end someone's life, especially if you plan to, that's premeditated murder. Why isn't abortion premeditated murder? If there's a heartbeat and you make a decision to go to a place and say, hey, yeah, I don't want this heartbeat to continue beating, stop it. It's premeditated murder. You can tell me about your feelings. You can tell me, no, what about this circumstance? I get it. And I've heard it. But at the end of the day, it doesn't change. Because I put it to you like this, and this is what I told my kids when I was talking to them about accountability. I said to them, if one person has a problem with another, and they shoot at them, but they miss, and they hit another person that had nothing to do with anything, that person just walking from the grocery store, there are several things at play. One, even though you didn't mean to, that person got shot. They have a bullet, either bullet wound or bullet hole. Either way, there's a bullet in them. Two, that person still has to be held accountable for shooting them. Even though they weren't aiming for them, even though they didn't try to shoot them, they still shot them and they still have to be held accountable. They have to. And of course, you can say some people get away with it and all that stuff, but you never get away from energy. You can get away from a person, but you don't get away from energy. A brief moment to bite my sandwich. And drink my water. So, yeah. So the thing is, you still have to be held accountable. Even if it's unintentional, you still have to be held accountable for your actions. And again, most abortions, and you can research this on your own if you don't believe me. You don't have to take me at my word. Please don't actually. Go look it up. Most abortions, a high majority of abortions, are done because the mother thought that they weren't ready. Now, this is something that my friend said that I found to be quite interesting. and I actually never thought about it at this point. And he said, now with women who are pro-choice, if they don't want to have the child, then they can have the abortion, and that be the end of it. But if the man doesn't want the child, and she does, he still has to deal with either the child or the child support. And a good amount of the people that I've seen say that they are pro-choice also consider themselves to be feminists. And in which a feminist says that they believe women are equal to men in every way and should be treated as such in every way. This is a way, or this is an area where that's not really the case. Because if you really want equality, then you should also think that a woman should get an abortion because the man doesn't want the child, because that child is 50% his. You didn't make it on your own. You know what I mean? Now, this isn't my argument. This isn't even my actual original thought. This is what was posed to me, and I just thought it was interesting, so I figured I'd share it. But I just think it's interesting that, you know, you want to say, you know, you're pro-choice, but the other half of the reason why that life is available doesn't really have a choice at all. So are we really pro-choice? Intermission for a sandwich bite. That's funny. Lady walking the dogs. Is that a dog and a cat? Yo, that's wild. That's what's up, though. A lady walking a dog and a cat. You don't see that often. So, if I continue talking, I'll just be rambling. And 9 times out of 10, repeating myself. So, in closing, I believe that every life should have a chance to succeed or fail. No matter what the parents were involved in, no matter if the parents intended for that child to be there or not. Because many of us weren't supposed to be here. Many of us came because condom broke. Many of us came because that alcohol was strong that night. Many of us came because some bills needed to be paid. Like, we just got to be honest with it. We got to be honest now. We got to be real about this, because we making some real life decisions. We talking about some real life stuff. A lot of us are here because R. Kelly was just singing his butt off on that track. Barry White was doing his thing on that track. Teddy Pender was tender on that track. You know what I mean? A lot of us, hey man, we weren't supposed to be here. A lot of us weren't supposed to be here. But we are. And each time we just extinguish the life, each time we stop it and crush your heart, stab it and chop it up. It's not right, man. It's murder. It's murder. You're taking a life. Whether you think you are or not, it doesn't matter what you think. It only matters what's true. It doesn't matter what I think. It only matters what's true. And scientifically, that child has its own DNA code. It has its own genetic code. It has its own code to say what type of texture its hair is going to be. Again, what type of height it's going to have. What type of weight capacity can it hold? What eye color, what hair color, what shoe size. It has all of that. Fingerprint. All of that coding in its DNA. It has it already. And to take that life for any circumstance, honestly, any circumstance is murder. You don't have to raise the child. Just don't kill it, you know? And I apologize because this is probably the most heavy conversation I've done so far. I apologize for that. But, I think these are things that need to be said. And I think these are discussions that need to be had on a logistic level, on a rational level, not just I went through this and I went through that, and I empathize for those things. And before I go, I'm sorry, it's not closing. Another thing my friend said was, what about the psychological damage that the woman has to deal with? And I said, that's what therapy is for. That's what medicine is for. Sometimes it's too much just for conversation. You may have a chemical imbalance now because of it, because that's a traumatic experience. But you know what? That baby isn't to blame. Nor will ending that baby's life be a solution, because you'll still have to deal with that. And I said to him, what about the man who have been taken advantage of? What about the man who was raped and ejaculated inside, but he's not a woman, so he can't have a baby? Doesn't he have psychological damage? What about the several cases of women who were raped who didn't get pregnant? Just because they didn't get pregnant, does that mean that they didn't have psychological issues? No. Those psychological issues are going to be there because of the situation. The child didn't create that. So it shouldn't be punished for that. Because again, that life did not choose how it was created. It had no choice in the matter. And maybe the mom didn't either. But you know what? That life was created. And there's purpose in that. And for us to end someone else's existence before it even has a chance to start is wrong. It's just wrong. Because, oh yeah, I got the guns. I had to do that real quick. Yeah, anyway. It's wrong, man. And we have to be able to take ourselves out the situation and see that and be honest about it. You have to be able to be honest about it. It doesn't make it okay just because the way it was created hurt. We got to deal with that hurt, because guess what? Baby or not, there's still hurt. So we got to deal with that in its proper way. Because by ending your life isn't going to make you feel better. It isn't going to make the trauma any less. It isn't going to make it easier to deal with. It won't. So we have to deal with each thing accordingly. We have to put each thing in its category so we can deal with it like it's supposed to be. Otherwise, we blur the lines and everything gets lumped in, and you don't really know how to effectively deal with anything anymore. So I don't think that the pregnancy should end because of how it started. I think it should end with a birth. And if you don't believe that you're suitable to raise that child, or you're unable to really cope with how that child came into this world, then give it up for adoption and allow someone who genuinely wants to just give everything they have, to just give their love, give their heart. They just want to give that to a child. Let them do that. Give them the opportunity. Turn your pain into a blessing. Don't dwell in it. And don't make a decision in it. Definitely don't take a life in it. I always talk about not making an emotional decision. Definitely don't murder someone because of emotions. Even if you are valid for feeling those emotions. I'm not saying those are invalid feelings. I'm not saying that you shouldn't feel that. I'm not. I'm only saying that I don't think you should end someone's life because you're hurting. Don't kill because of pain. Try to take your situation and make a blessing out of it. Because that's what women do. That's what people do. But right now, I'm talking about women. That's what women do. You give them a little, they give you a lot. Women are multipliers. I was listening to a sermon Sunday, and you don't have to believe in God. I get it. I was listening to a sermon, and he was saying that women are multipliers. He said, you give a woman a house, she'll give you a home. You give her groceries, she'll give you a meal. You give her sperm, she'll give you a life. Don't take that life out of pain. Because you can be the biggest blessing to someone else's life by having that life and allowing someone else to love it. Allow that child to have a chance. Allow that life to have a chance. Just give it a chance. Don't extinguish it because of how it was created. Please. I'm saying this from my heart. And I hope you get that. I hope you realize that. I'm talking as sincerely as I possibly can. Don't end a life out of pain. Because it'll only create more. So, I appreciate you guys for listening and for being here. And again, I'm sorry that it's such a heavy episode. But again, I think it's necessary. So, please like, comment, share, message, whatever you have to do. Please get this to as many people as you can. Just to get a conversation going, whether you agree with me or not. Send it to someone else and see if they agree. Send it to somebody else and see if they disagree. And have a discussion. That's what this is for. It's just for the discussion. You don't have to just take my word. I encourage you not to. Do your research and do some deep soul searching for yourself. And just see what you come up with. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for listening. This has been another episode of Car Talk with Tazzdaangel. Good conversation you can ride to. I look forward to hearing from you guys. I love you and talk to you soon.